Welcome back to another episode of East versus West with myself, Eddy from Eddytainment, and
Anthony from the Knights of Horror.
Today we're going to be talking about not necessarily us doing some speculation, but we're going to be reviewing some speculation that was put out there into the ether and giving our thoughts on what we think is either going to be coming out of that and maybe what we're anticipating or want to come to the event here in 2022. It's crazy. We're in 2022. What is it? It's Monday the 3rd right now.
3 days in.
What's that?
3 days in.
Yeah, you're probably seeing this a couple days later because we're filming this the same day as filming another video. So this will come out a little bit later. But there's already a lot out there, and the event's 9 months away.
Yeah.
So we'll talk a little bit about Orlando. Our boy Losh, one of the fellow Boo Bros, put out the first speculation video, I think, of anybody, and he put it out on the 1st of January.
I think he was trying to get competition with me with my documentary, so makes sense.
He had it locked and loaded.
He won.
That thing was locked and loaded. He was ready. And one of the first things that he talked about was for the coming year. Before we jump into this, anything you wanted to add to the intro?
Make sure you're subscribed to the Boo Bros for all your need to know haunt news and theme park news. We're gonna keep trying to update you guys more frequently and whatnot. But for sure, check out all the individual channels featured on the Boo Bros. There's a wide variety out there between theme parks, horror, haunt, lifestyle. If that's your thing, anything out there. If you like myself or Eddytainment, you want to see more of us, go ahead and check out our individual channels. We just returned, so we're going to have tons of content coming out, but Eddy's been grinding it through the holidays and is going to continue to grind through it probably within the new year and whatnot with different events at Busch Gardens and whatnot. So definitely go check that out. And again, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe, and let's jump right into some HHN speculation talk with us breaking down our boy Losh's recent video. One thing he did point out that I think was a given for a lot of HHN fans this next year was Fear Street trilogy.
Well, I think more than anything, it's a Netflix property.
Yes, Netflix property. We all know that Netflix has a good standing relationship right now with Halloween Horror Nights. We've had Stranger Things 1 and 2 and The Haunting of Hill House. 3 properties, all by Netflix, that have come to the event.
We have options.
We do have options, a few options, actually. We're either getting Fear Street trilogy, which I think is the most popular out of the 3 options that we have, only because Fear Street, I think, took the world by storm and was actually a really good horror trilogy anthology. Ironically, written by the same guy that I grew up writing his books, R.L. Stine, who wrote Goosebumps. Wrote these books, and they're more tended to young adults and adults because there is cussing, there is graphic references and sexual situations. But you catch my drift. It's meant for young adults, which was a very turn of events. Me growing up reading Goosebumps and then watching Fear Street was kind of like Goosebumps, but a grown-up version of Goosebumps. You know what I mean? Like, this was really cool. I've always said that, with people around my age, and a lot of people will agree with me, that R.L. Stine growing up was our Stephen King. He was the kid's version of Stephen King. He made all these iconic books, an anthology series, Goosebumps, which got a television show, which got movies, and now Fear Street. Made those books years ago, and now it's got its movie deals through Netflix. I heard there's a 4th in the works. There's a lot of books they can go off of, and this was just one book that they went off of. So we're just getting started with Fear Street, and I would love to see it come to the event.
I would love to see that come to the event as well, but the good thing about Netflix is as the partnership continues to grow and get deeper, we could tap whatever property that we could agree upon, obviously, because they want to make their money and they want to make sure that their properties are shown in the right light, but they have a lot of properties that we can utilize. So this year, extremely popular was The Haunting of Hill House. So although I wasn't a huge fan of Bly Manor, they could easily follow this year up. And I mean, for the more casual fan, having the sequel to Hill House at the event will probably be amazing.
Yeah.
For somebody who watches horror all the time, Bly Manor might be like a cop out. You have Fear Street, which took the world by storm, and even unpopular opinion, but quite possible, is with Stranger Things coming out with another season. Stranger Things can make a return to the event, and I mean, undeniably, Stranger Things probably had the biggest impact of any particular IP to Halloween Horror Nights ever.
I'm just saying, we've been waiting a long time for Stranger Things 4. This better be the best goddamn season I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there. I want to jump back a little bit to Hill House real quick. Hill House, for those who don't know, was supposed to come in 2020. Obviously, the event canceled out here on the West Coast due to COVID. They got a light version out in Orlando with 3 mazes, Bride of Frankenstein Lives, Tooth Fairy, and then for one weekend, Beetlejuice, so they can keep the rights to that property. Haunting a Hill House was supposed to come in 2020, and for the sole purpose to market Bly Manor. It was going to be one of those things where live in the tale of Hill House and check out Bly Manor on Netflix, releasing on this date. That was the sole purpose of Hill House's thing. I'm glad they still brought it to the event in 2021. West Coast wasn't a big success, but East Coast, it fucking did numbers. The maze was beautiful. The sole purpose for Hill House was to market Bly Manor. Bly Manor coming in 2022 would make sense. There's been a few properties that they've done in the past where wasn't a fan of the film, but was more of a fan of the actual maze because I was more immersed into it, and the way it was executed was phenomenal. So I'm excited if they do bring Bly Manor, which I have not seen yet. Everyone has told me Hill House is scarier, but I have other friends that tell me, like, if you really just kind of watch and pay attention, it's actually a really good story and whatnot. So I'm all about just taking the time to watch it. So I'm going to probably watch it soon. But if Bly Manor were to come, I would love to see what Orlando can execute, and I would love to see what Hollywood executes. And then going on to Stranger Things. Now, I will say this. Stranger Things has always been a success over there in Orlando. 1 and 2 were a success for you guys. 1 was a success on the West Coast. 2 was not a success in the diehard eyes of the diehard fans. To the general audience who just love Stranger Things, they all liked going through it. They thought it was great. For the diehard fans who go every year, was not a success. So I don't know if the numbers of that affect Stranger Things coming back to the West Coast, and if that ultimately affects both coasts, because that was always a joint partnership as far as, Netflix properties coming. But I would say out of the 3 properties we just mentioned, that is the least likely to come, in my opinion. And I would say Bly Manor would be the second, and obviously the most likely to come would be Fear Street because of its popularity when it came out. That's how I'm sourcing it, but there is 3 different properties that Losh did mention that could potentially come to Horror Nights next year.
Yeah. Although the least likely, still possible.
Still possible.
What I would say.
It's not off the table. I just think after the not so successful version in Hollywood, they can move on and bring in other things. Like I said, though, I think the most likely to come this year is going to be Fear Street. Yep. That's my opinion, only because of how popular it is, and it really hit all the vibes of like the 90s, the 70s, and then for people who are fans of like 1600 witch trial things, like it really set the tones for all of them. And not to mention the soundtracks. Beautiful. I'm a man of music, so I love my music.
Yep. And so the next thing after Netflix that Losh talked about. So once again, shout out to Losh for putting out the speculation and giving us something to talk about.
Yes.
We found your video very interesting, and if you guys haven't seen it, make sure to check it out. It was an interesting video. He talked about a lot of things in a different perspective. But the next properties that he talked about were 2022 slasher releases. So a couple slashers that are coming out and very popular, starting with this month, is Scream. And Scream has been rumored to come to the event for years. It was supposed to come to the event 1 year, and then it ended up getting switched for The Purge. And very obviously was switched from Scream to The Purge. There was a lot of scenes and items in there that you could see while walking through that still were very reminiscent of what the property should have been. With the new movie coming out, which I'm extremely excited to go watch that movie. So excited. Huge fan of Scream, and huge fan of the first Scream. So if they would bring Scream to the event and make it so that the whole entire house is the first Scream, that would be amazing.
Popular, unpopular, and popular opinion. First year I went to Horror Nights, I actually got to see Scream at Halloween Horror Nights. It was when Scream 4 came out. It was the terror tram called Scream for Your Life.
Oh, nice.
So that was the only time I've ever gotten to see Ghostface at the event, which was I will never forget. I don't know if I'll ever get another chance to. Hopefully this year we might. However, here are my opinions about the new film. It looks good in the trailers. It really does. And the people who are doing who did Ready or Not are doing it and whatnot. Why do I have a feeling though? And I hate to say this, and I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong. I just have a feeling it's not gonna deliver.
I mean, for any highly anticipated movie, that is a possibility. And also, when you're a huge fan, the likelihood of you getting impressed to you getting let down is it swings much more likely to the letdown.
I didn't think that way for Halloween 2018 though. I knew from the start that was going to be a good film.
So for me, Halloween 2018 was you know me. I'm a diehard. I mean, look at my background.
Diehard Michael fan. Trust me.
Michael Myers.
Honestly,
Michael Myers.
All of us can say we don't want Halloween to come back to the event. It's been the event enough times, and then there'll be that one guy that says, that one guy is Eddie, and be like, bring Michael Myers every single year. I will not be let down.
Yeah. My whole entire background is like all Michael Myers for the most part. But yeah, the 2018 movie did amazing. It was a beautifully directed movie and scripted. Then, did I freeze?
You did now.
Gosh darn it! All right, well, I'll still keep talking because it's the internal stamp.
We'll get a beautiful picture of Eddie on the screen.
Yeah, give it a second. It's damn Sony and its overheating problems. And the reason why is because we're filming two videos back to back. So give it a second and it'll come back up. But the follow-up, I mean, I gotta say, even as a huge fan, didn't do as well. But how did we transition to Halloween?
We were talking about how we think, or how I think the Scream 5 is not going to be as good.
Oh, and then you referenced Halloween.
And I referenced how I liked Halloween 2018, even though from the trailers I knew it was going to be good.
Okay, so perfect transition. So who knows whether or not Scream will be amazing, but I'll be there anyway.
I will too. I'm a horror fan. I love Scream. I hope I'm wrong, but I just have that gut feeling that it's not going to do good.
And if they bring it to the event, that will more than likely, as long as Halloween doesn't exist at the event, will more than likely be my anticipated number one.
Now, if Halloween exists at the event,
then Halloween.
Well, does that bump Scream down to 2?
2, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But if Scream goes uncontended by a Halloween movie, it's Scream that's going to be at the top. But perfect segue, because another slasher movie that's coming out this year is the new Halloween. Which should be the final.
Ends.
Yeah, should be the final, supposedly.
In the words of Tommy Doyle, evil dies tonight.
Right. But that's another movie that could be coming to the event. You know, a lot of popular slashers that are coming out this year. I think if there's any two that have an opportunity to be at the event, I think first Halloween would outdo what's called Scream as far as possibility. I'm not saying it'll be a better house, but the chances of it actually coming to the event, Halloween has a much higher likelihood. But Scream is the one that I would really like to come to the event.
Well, I know that for the reason why we never saw Scream at the event, the last time we saw him at any Halloween Horror Nights was in the West Coast, 2011. I think the reasoning behind that was, and this is why it took so long to even make another Scream movie too, there was a lot of lawsuits and rights issues with the character and the property in general. So that is why we have waited since 2011 to get a new Scream. We've literally waited 10 years to get another Scream movie. And that's the same reason why the property hasn't been at HHN since, because of rights issues. Actually, Murdy has expressed that many times that he wants to do Scream as a maze, just couldn't never get the rights because there were so many issues in court with who owned the rights and whatnot. Wes Craven, creator of Freddy Krueger, among many other fucking wonderful films gave us Scream in the 90s, and it was unlike anything we've ever seen. It was a more whodunit killer movie.
Yeah.
Who is the killer? And that's been the theme for all these films, is who is the killer? It's always someone close to the killer, or someone always close to the victim, which is Sidney Prescott. So I do agree with you. I think even if we saw a compilation maze of, ideally, the ideal goal is the first movie. But if we got a compilation maze of some of the most iconic scenes in every Scream movie, and then at the end of the maze was a scene from the new film, I would be okay with that too. I mean, regardless, we know the sequels aren't the best, but there is iconic moments in every sequel, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, I could see that being the case, but I would just like to keep it pure. If that house came for the 100%. First time, keep it pure.
I'm with you 100%. I would love to just see the first film by itself. But knowing the consensus of Horror Nights, it would probably be a compilation maze leading up to, the final film, and it would be a scene from the new film that you've probably seen in one of the trailers. Because it would be a marketing. Well, at that point, though, it would already be out on DVD, so it could even include other things that we've already seen in the film, because it's coming out this month, and the DVD would already be out before fucking summertime. So
it technically could be the whole film, but
it honestly could. It could just be the whole new one too. I mean,
yeah.
So we'll see how this movie does. It looks like like I said, the trailers look good. It gave me goosebumps to see Ghostface again. There's a lot of new masks that are being introduced. I don't know if you saw that chrome one. Really like that. That was bitchin'. I'd love to see that in a maze. But obviously the classic white Ghostface is iconic. And fun fact, actually, the people who own the rights to that costume is actually a Halloween store, and they still own the rights to this day.
Nice.
So.
Alrighty. So transitioning to the next thing that Losh brought up in a speculation, which this is one of the ones that I think is very interesting and also gives Halloween Horror Nights a whole new well of intellectual properties to pull from if this partnership is able to be worked out, which is a partnership that we had successfully in Orlando last year, which is Warner Brothers. So for those of you who don't know, Beetlejuice is a Warner Brothers property. So although Beetlejuice is seen frequently at the parks, I forget the logistics behind why.
It's kind of like a leasing thing.
Yeah,
it's from when I took the Warner Brothers tour here in Hollywood. Because you could see Universal from the Warner Brothers lot, and you look up and you see Harry Potter's Hogwarts. And they legitimately, I swear to God, the tour guy said, yeah, the only reason that it's up there is because we don't have a theme park and we don't have the space for it, so we leased them the rights to it.
Yeah, and for the most part, the downfall of the Warner Brothers haunt event is probably the best thing that happened for this partnership to continue. Because if not, they would be greedy with their IPs. But there's IPs that can be utilized. One of them, very notably, and there's a lot of things that have come out recently that kind of show that this is very likely, is Gremlins. And there's been talk within the Boo Bros as far as like who's for it and who's not. I think there's more for it than not. But
Michael, I think me and Michael are the only ones that are not for it.
Yeah, and I didn't read everything to see why you were not for it.
I never actually really said why I wasn't. I just said okay. I was just like, I have to agree with Michael. To be honest,
so you're hearing it first, guys.
To be honest, okay. First and foremost, I'll say this.
So everything before this was a lie.
First and foremost, I'll say this: I've never seen the film. Never seen Gremlins.
Shame.
However, there's a reasoning behind that. It just looked like a film that I wouldn't be interested in. I know a lot about it. People have told me things about it, but it just doesn't, something that doesn't catch my interest. That being said, it wouldn't catch my interest at the event. I would still go through it because I go through everything, and I have to as a theme park haunt reviewer, you kind of have to go through everything so you can give an official census on what you think of the overall event and whatnot. That being said, if Billie Eilish would have came, as much as I didn't want it to come, I would have went through it regardless. Probably would have blown me away. Maybe it wouldn't have. That being said, with Gremlins, I don't know. I mean, you got to look at this in a more creative way. Is when this movie was made by Steven Spielberg, this was something that was new to cinema, something that was, a lot of puppeteer and stuff. So your expectations for that is high. Are they going to use puppets in the maze? Are they going to, is there going to be a lot of animatronics in the maze, like a blend of both? So I'm curious to see how they would execute it. But if I can choose anything else, I would easily choose something else over this. But
so funny enough, I don't think Michael experienced this, and you obviously didn't experience it since it was your first time at the event this year. Slaughter Cinema actually had like a little creature movie that was part of it, and everybody really liked it. Everybody was calling for that to be brought back. They ended up bringing back the Yeti.
yes.
So we've seen a version of like a small gremlin-like creature be successful and be popular in a small room, which I think
Mind you, that was one small room. They got to do a whole big ass maze.
Correct, and I think they can do it, but I understand where you're coming from. But this is an iconic movie,
It is an iconic movie, and the fact, I mean, again, something that I'm not really interested in, but if it does come to Horror Nights, I will watch it because I need to see what I'm getting into. If it's gonna be done, it's got to be done right, and if it's not done right, then there's gonna be problems. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're gonna do this property, you got to do it right. Like, that's just plain and simple. Like, you got to get the gremlins right. You can't have fucking 5 foot something people dressed up in giant gremlin costumes. You know what I mean? Like, it's got to be done right. Like you have to execute this right. Other than that, you're going to get a lot of hate from it, I think.
Yeah. I think that's something that Halloween Horror Nights is known for.
Yeah.
Is kind of going against what you think they would ruin and surprising you.
Yeah.
And I could see this be pulled off with like puppeteering. So it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody in a costume, but somebody who could do really good puppeteering out of like a boo hole.
Now, here's the sad part of why I'm going to shut down any Warner Brothers coming to the event this year. And I hate doing this, but it's the God honest truth. Warner Brothers has been in talks to bringing back their event Horror Made Here. And if that's the case, and if that does come back for the 2022 season out here in the West Coast, we probably won't see any Warner Brothers properties. Now,
it doesn't stop them from doing it on the East Coast.
Now, I was going to get to that. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that we won't get, Horror Nights won't get the rights to at least one Warner Brothers property, because they won't use every single Warner Brothers property at said event. But I think out of the 3 Losh speculated, which we'll talk more about, but I'll tell you what they were right now, which was Gremlins, It, and the Conjuring universe. The 3 that are, out of those 3, the one likeliest to come is going to be probably Gremlins.
Yeah. I think the next likely would be The Conjuring, and then finally the least likely is
you know what? It's
Pennywise.
The one speculation that I hear every year, and I hate to say this, as much as I would love to see it at the event, we just need to give up on it. It's never coming. Never.
Yeah, no, it's the least likely one.
Yeah.
But what I will say too is, good for them if they want to bring back Horror Made Here. But it was, although I really wanted to go check it out, it looked cool, but it was a huge, horrible flop. So
Speak
they
for
could
yourself.
try. They could try. I mean, no, the money speaks for the success of that event.
It obviously wasn't too bad of a flop since it was going to come back. But I mean, listen.
They couldn't get it approved by corporate, which means
they didn't do it in 2020 because of COVID. They were going to bring it back. They were going to bring it back in 2020, and they didn't do it because of COVID.
They canceled way earlier.
No, they canceled.
And all the numbers that came out, the numbers were actually released as far as what they made.
I can't legally talk about what I want to talk about on camera, but I will tell you off camera. But mark my words, they were going to come back in 2020.
Okay, but either way, if they attempt another comeback, I can't see, unless they change up the event completely, how it would supersede what already they've done. But either way, that's what we could potentially look at from a Warner Brothers property if we continue to grow that relationship from a Halloween Horror Nights perspective. Um, very, very difficult relationship to build past Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
Moving on from that, uh,
He went to originals, didn't he?
I don't. Yeah, he talked about. Well, no, not originals yet. He talked about throwback IPs. I'm going to skip over that because throwback IPs
I
is
will
something
say,
that.
if we're gonna talk more on the original side of things now, Universal Monsters, and specifically, I would title it Creature Feature. Not just the Creature of the
So
Black Lagoon, but all the infamous creatures in cinema, in the
so
Universal
that's what
realm.
I was going to move to, but I wouldn't call that an original concept.
It,
I would
it's
call
it's
that
an
an IP.
original concept because the maze is designed originally. It's based off IPs though, so it's an IP and
Yeah,
original.
yeah. Because
That makes sense.
I mean, yeah, it's a. I would call it an IP in the
An
Universal
original
Monsters,
IP. How about that?
an IP with an original story.
Yes.
There you go. But Universal Monsters would probably be the most likely out of this whole entire list that's going to happen next year or this year. I keep on saying next year because we're only 3 days in.
Yeah.
But this year, and one of the things that we talked about was Creature. And I know that Creature, you've never had a Creature in any of your houses, have you?
We've had the Invisible
Dude,
Man though.
Creature, the Invisible Man, like I told Connor, has been at the event every single year. You just never seen him.
Exactly.
But but Creature's little scene in the original Universal Monsters house at Halloween Horror Nights Orlando was spectacular. They gave you this perception that you were underwater because there was like kelp and stuff kind of hanging down, and there was a boat above you. So it was like you were walking underwater with him. It was spectacular. If they could do that, that's also another reason why I thought a Jaws maze or a shark maze could happen
Sharknado.
because how well they pulled that off. They blew my mind when I looked up and I saw the boat. I was like, holy shoot, I'm underwater. What? That's so awesome. But
How'd you breathe?
I think I don't know how we did it. Maybe they should do some pre-story before you get into the house.
You are the creature.
Yeah, right.
Twist.
But I think more than anything, the West Coast wants this house. I think the West Coast has called for this house much more than the East Coast has.
I think I want a creature. I want the creature of the Black Lagoon to be in a maze. That's for damn sure. Obviously, if you honestly look back at the Universal Monsters, there's a reason why the creature hasn't been featured in them, and that's because the creature didn't debut to the 50s, and all these other monsters debuted in the 30s and the 40s, which makes sense. And it seems like we're getting closer and closer to that time period, which is why when Creature of the Black Lagoon came out, we were entering what was called the Atomic Age. Basically, they were making all these creature movies based around the atomic bomb. Obviously during World War II and whatnot. That's when Godzilla came out. King Kong. All these movies came out, and they started, getting more popularity and everything. And all the creatures were born. Creature from the Black Lagoon being one of them. So I would love to see a solo Creature from the Black Lagoon maze. Ironically enough, I got this bad boy looking at me too. 3D printed,
Nice.
by the way, all of it. But that sits on my headboard to remind me every day we're gonna get a creature maze one day. But nonetheless, I overall though I would love to see just in general a classic spin on the creature feature. Just think about the idea, man. You're at Halloween Horror Nights, you're walking through this maze, and they're advertising creature feature featuring all these films. And much like how our Universal Monsters, the first one started, we had obviously this whole graveyard scene, but when you got an actual side the maze, the first room you went in was a film vault, and it was all the iconic monster films, and then Frankenstein popped out of the screen, and then the first room you go in is the Invisible Man, and you start going through all the Universal Monster movies, like you're living the scenes. What would be cool was, let's take that concept, but instead we're advertising a creature feature, and we bring some of the most iconic Universal creature movies to life. Creature from the Black Lagoon can obviously be the big headlining selling point of it because we know how popular that character is, and that would bring in a lot of the revenue, and it could be, I could see that face being on a lot of the t-shirts, the merchandise and whatnot. So I'm completely fine with that. But advertise it as a creature feature and bring some of the most iconic creatures to life. And let's just have the creature from the Black Lagoon kind of be sprinkled throughout of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That no, I'm down with however they bring creature. I want to see it again because how impressed I was from his first appearance at Halloween Horror Nights. And then I know Connor would love to see the Invisible Man, and the merch for the Invisible Man would be amazing.
Oh,
it would
hell
be
yeah, bro!
A white T-shirt, and it looks like nothing's on it because he's invisible, but the tag says Universal Monsters.
Sammy would be very proud because he wants white walls. Now he gets a white T-shirt.
It's a white T-shirt. Yep.
No, dude. I will say this. I would say that, listen, we all want Invisible Man at the event. It's a given. However, it's one thing executing it on film, and it's one thing executing it in front of your own eyes.
Yeah.
How they pulled it off at Horror Nights in 2018, I mean, you can still tell, like, there were, you could still see how they pulled it off and whatnot, but they pulled it off brilliantly, and that's why he only had the one little scene that he had.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the effect is mostly black lights. The actor portraying the Invisible Man, or actress, was wearing kind of like he looked like a freaking Hugh Hefner. He looked like Hugh Hefner. He really did. And that's exactly what Murdy said. He looks like Hugh Hefner. But he was wearing his robe and everything, and the way they made his face kind of disappear was he was wearing this like black mask, and he had the bandages of like him ripping them off. So you kind of saw like the bandages on that was covering his face, but then when you saw over the bandages with the black light reflecting onto him and the other colors of the lights and whatnot, it looked like, it was an Invisible Man. So pulled off for the one scene that they did was executed brilliantly. To do that for an entire maze, it's going to be more special effects than it will be actors because you're going to have people pulling strings to make things like fall down and shit, in my opinion.
Well, I think Losh mentioned in his video that it would be the new rendition of the Invisible Man, which means that could be a little bit different because the new Invisible Man wasn't actually an invisible man; it was a suit.
Yes.
So
I kind of liked how they did that too, how they executed it, because he was still a scientist, still figured out something to make himself invisible and used it to fuck with people, which was awesome.
And that throat cutting scene.
Oh my god, dude, wasn't that just the turn of events in that film?
Yes, that was amazing.
I was like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, way to frame somebody, right?
Yeah, for real, bro. I did talk about a psychological horror film. That movie, we're getting off topic though. That's a good movie. We'll talk about that another day.
Yep. But I think as far as that goes, the houses, I think that's all that deserves talking about, because when it comes to original concepts, it's really difficult to actually go over speculation of original concept, because that's really just what you think, unless something has leaked.
Something I want to talk about originals, though. I mean, it's nothing that's leaked. It's just kind of my own mindset ever since the Scare Zone. You think with the popularity of the return of Eddy, we could potentially see him come back next year, or like to host the entire event finally, or you think they'll bring someone else to host?
I don't know. That would be interesting if Eddy finally got to host an event.
Yeah,
because everybody knows that he was supposed to host 2001, and wasn't able to. I think if I had to guess, and also my bias is next year there will be an icon.
Returning or brand new?
That's the question. That's the question. I would love to see them create a whole new backstory, a whole new icon. That would be awesome. Instead of just digging up an icon that we've already seen. I love seeing the icons, but it would be nice to have a fresh face, and it would be nice to see them pull it off successfully and add a new iconic individual, no pun intended to the word icon, for the lineup of Halloween Horror Nights. You know what I'm saying?
100%. I think the hardest part about executing that, though, is so many people have loved all these icons for many years. And introducing someone new usually is hit or miss. Either you
Yeah.
really like them or you really don't. So the creative team would have to come up with an idea to really want you to like this character and buy the merchandise for this character and to continue to bring this character back for years to come. So I think that's the hardest part with the creative team is if you're going to create a new icon, you got to make it very likable because these other icons are very likable and they know that. So that's why they continue to bring them back. But I'm for a new icon, honestly. If they
Yeah.
can pull it off, I'm for it.
Yeah. I'm for it 100% because I think that's one of those worthy risk it for the biscuit, they say.
Right.
I think if you get it right, it's gonna be exceptional. And I mean, it's not like they haven't been known to do it before. The icon years was new icon after new icon after new icon. You know, it wasn't the same icon coming back every single year, except for like Jack would make his appearances, but it was a new icon every year or every couple years. You know, so it wasn't like they can't pull it off, or it isn't like they can't pull it off. They definitely can.
No, they definitely can 100%. Yeah.
But I think that's it. I'm looking over like
One last thing I want
notes.
to talk about because I know you know more about this than I do. And Losh brought it up in his video. Locations.
Yes.
We're losing Shrek this coming year. Shrek's shutting its doors after all these years. So rest in peace, Shrek. That was a great show building to host Case Files Unearthed for the 2021 season. But Blue Man Group is obviously, from what I heard, was used for Grinchmas this year. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
So what are we thinking,
yeah.
man? Can we get a maze location this year? I mean, it's big enough to host at least 2.
No. So, and sorry, I don't mean no to what you're saying. I mean, I just was saying no. But
let's just say no.
No. You know how like sometimes you just say the word no, like
yeah, no, trust me. I know.
To start a sentence. I know. Yeah. So one thing that Losh brought up in his video was using that as another show, sit down show, right? Which I thought was ingenious, but like beyond belief. Like this is like Halloween Horror Nights Albert Einstein thinking, because the Fear Factor stage is iconic because, you know, the shows that have been in there, but that stage sucks. It is so hot in that damn.
I didn't get to watch that show while I was there. That's the only thing I didn't do.
Yeah, it is so hot in that arena, and then on top of that, they use pyrotechnics.
I'm sorry, Eddie. You're in Florida. It's hot everywhere you fucking go.
But imagine, so it's hot, and then they put you under like a tin can, and then they use pyrotechnics in there too. So it gets super hot in there. I've never had a pleasant experience like sitting there. Like what I'm watching is pleasant if I'm watching like Bill and Ted, but I'm like drenched, you know, and I hate being sweaty. Getting a show, an additional show. So leave Fear Factor for the people who want to go watch a Fear Factor show, or not a Fear Factor show, but a show in the Fear Factor arena. Use that to eat up more of the crowd, and then you could potentially add more maze locations with other sound stages.
I'm for it.
So I don't think that they'll use it for a house, but I think using it for an additional show is genius.
Do we have an idea of what Shrek is turning into? Are they going to make it to like a Secret Life of Pets like we have over here, or
that's the
rumor?
The rumor. And it makes sense
because Despicable Me is right across, and that's how it is with ours. It's literally right across from each other.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. But I think Shrek being converted won't stop that from having a house in it.
It will if it's going to be an indoor dark ride, like how Secret Life of Pets is.
Yeah, but I mean, who knows? I don't know the ins and outs. There's just me being hypothetical with my personal opinion. But hypothetically speaking, you know, there's 2 actual like show areas inside of Shrek.
Yeah, no, I'm well aware of that.
Yeah.
I just think if they're going to make a Secret Life of Pets ride, if they're going to make any attraction indoors there, they're going to probably utilize every single square inch of that space.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, time will tell. We'll see. When's Shrek set to close down? Is it already closed down?
I think it's next month or the end of this month.
So it's closing down soon. That means construction
with the
will
money.
start this year.
Yeah.
Um, we'll see what are they demolishing the building completely, or are they gonna just they're gonna just gut it and redesign something else in it?
My gut would be that they're my gut would be that they're not going to gut it. I mean that they are going to gut it, and they're not
So
going to
they're gonna keep the building, just gut the inside and redesign it to something else.
Yeah, I don't see how they could demolish that building and build a new structure. I think it makes much more sense to just
They did with Secret
start
Life
from
of
the inside.
Pets.
What was there before?
It was a just a theater, kind of like a get together hall you can rent out. But like when Halloween Horror Nights back in the day, they did their red carpets right out of that theater, and then they'd go inside and have like food and introductions, and then they'd go out and do the mazes with said celebrities and whatnot. But
the Shrek location is like smack dab entrance middle of the park.
I mean, yeah, Secret Life of Pets. I mean, it wasn't in the middle, but it was like in the front part of the park. But I mean, it's possible they can little by little. I mean, it's not going to be like they throw some C4 on it and fucking blow it up. It's like it's more little by little. They knock each part of the walls down and redesign the entire thing, new structure and everything. But it depends.
I mean, I would love to see them do that because that means that
it could be a more space thing. They can maybe shrink it.
They're taking it. They're taking that new concept more seriously, because if you're just gutting it, you're adjusting the ride to what you have, as opposed to the ride becoming what it should be.
Right. No, yeah, I agree. And this is the theme park side of Boo Bros. Welcome to that.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I'm excited to see hopefully some new locations, hopefully some new properties, new scare zones, new originals. I mean, if anyone's gone to Orlando, they know they're best for half IPs, half originals. So
yep.
We have a lot to look forward to. There's going to be a lot more speculation in the next coming months here on Boo Bros and East versus West. We might not do another speculation video for some time, and that's just for the sole purpose of we don't want to overdo it, because we do want to actually speculate as we get closer to announcements. So in the meantime, you might see the return of some coast comparison. We do have a ton of new mazes for the 2021 season that we can do coast comparison on. It's going to be an embarrassment to represent Hollywood, but it is what it is. But nonetheless, I mean, we'll have a couple coast comparisons here and there. But again, we won't do any major speculation, at least Eddie and I, on East versus West until we feel it's we get more information in the event. Not saying to anyone who has already done or is planning on doing speculations in the next coming weeks or months to not do them. It's just Eddie and I, we wanna wait till we get a little bit more information. That's because that's how we've always ran East versus West. But much respect to the people who gave us stuff to talk about today. Losh, thank you very much. Appreciate you for doing what you did. So with all that being said, if you guys enjoyed today's video, make sure to smash the like button. Helps via the algorithm to get the video out there, to get some more audiences to talk about Horror Nights, to people who love it, maybe not know who we are. We want to bring them in, bring part of our community. Leave some comments down what you think is coming to the event, new locations, some ideas you might have. And if you guys are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button with that bell notification be aware every time we put up a new video. If you like myself or Eddie, we have individual channels. I run a channel called The Nights of Horror, where I talk all things horror. I do interviews with various scare actors. I've done a couple of celebrity interviews, some well-known personalities in the haunt community and whatnot. And then Eddie is a kind of lifestyle theme park channel. He goes to Busch Gardens a lot in Williamsburg, and he goes to a lot of various theme parks around his area. Keeps you up to date as to what's coming with new rides, new attractions, new special events, and just overall enjoys the hell out of what he does. And that's the best part. It's the realest that I've seen on YouTube as far as theme park content creators. So yeah, check that out. And if you don't want to check either of us out, there's other content creators on the Boo Bros that you might find interest in. So go check them out as well. But with all that being said, it felt good to be back here with my partner in crime, Eddie from Eddytainment. I'm Anthony from the Nights of Horror. You just watched another episode of East versus West, and we'll see you guys next time for an episode pretty soon. Don't forget to ask yourself, have you been edutained?
Deuces.